in order for us to get our bird to have gravity, because now if you go back, our bird is right here with the camera. So we need to change it. Let's go back to our play state. Instead of giving these coordinates here, let's actually give the bird's current place. Let's change this. So what we're going to do here, we're going to say bird.getPosition.x and bird.getPosition.y, just like that. Okay? So we are actually finding the bird's position at a certain time as things are being rendered. If we save and run, it should be at the top now. There we go. So it's right over there, because if you look here, we said 50, 300. So y is going to be y up here. Perfect. All right, so now we can go back. So let's go back to our bird here. So what do we need to do inside of our update? We're going to do the following. First of all, we are going to give a velocity, right? So the velocity, we're going to say velocity dot, we can add the vector, which means we can put an x and y value. In the x direction, we don't want any velocity, but we want one in the y direction. So in this case, we're going to give it a gravity velocity. Okay, so we're going to say gravity. Gravity was added inside of our constants. And let's go back to our play state. Now, we always have to call the handle input first, because this is where we're going to put event listeners for when the screen is tapped or clicked. And once we gave a velocity, once we gave it gravity, let's give it, we need to scale the velocity. Okay, we need to scale it to dt. Okay, make sure that it confirms with the current delta time that's been given by the system. Let's go ahead and run this and see what's going to happen. We should at least be able to make sure to see the bird falling, because now it has gravity. Although we've added the gravity, we need to make sure we also add position. We are going to say position of the bird, that add, we're going to add a vector here. First, we're going to put 0, and then for the y, because we want to make sure it goes up, we're going to say velocity.y, like that. Save and run. And there we go. So you saw it, it went ahead and fell. Let's try again real quick here. Gotta be real fast. Run again. There we go. It was really fast. Okay. Now, the next thing we need to do here, because we want to make sure when users tap on the screen, we want to get this velocity or the gravity going up. We want it to make sure that it goes up. So that means we have to add that number up, because gravity is taking it down. So we have to add a positive value so that the bird goes up as we tap on the screen. To be able to do that, we go to play state. Again, we have our handle input inside of update, which is good because it needs to be updated every time the frames of the games are being updated. So here, inside of handle input, we can say if gdx.input that just touched, we're gonna say bird.jump. We haven't created this method yet, so we're gonna go back to our bird. Here we're gonna say public void jump. So for jumping, we want to make sure that the velocity now dot add for the x is going to be 0, but for the y we are going to give, let's say, 200. Right? Because we tap, we want it to go 200 up. And we can play with that number. All right, let's make sure we open the app. In the moment it's open, let's start tapping. There we go. Ooh, that's a lot. Okay. Now you see this is happening here. The reason why it's not very smooth is because we need to do something else here, which is inside of our bird, we scaled our dt to, we scale our velocity. Right, we need to go back here, and in fact, let's move this here. And once we've added the velocity up, what are we gonna do? We need to scale the velocity back. So we're gonna say SL, and we're gonna say fraction of the dt that we have added. Okay, so this will mean every time it goes, it's scaled to dt, and then we add velocity up, and then we scale back. That way we have this smoother movement happening as we tap on the screen. Right, so but before we do that, what we need to do actually, instead of actually adding more of this inside of this vector, we're just going to go and get the velocity.y and add 200. Okay, so it's the velocity.y, because that's the axis that we want. We're going to say 200 for now. Okay, now if we run this, we should be able to have a smoother flap or smoother jump on our bird. Look at that. So clicking, very nicely done. Okay, very good. We stop clicking, it just falls to the infinite. So we'll have to take care of that later. All right, so we were able to get our bird to jump properly. So what we did here, we were able to call the handle input, otherwise it's not going to work. How do we update? Because inside of this update here, that's where things are updated constantly in our, as things are happening in the game. So we always have to call the updates inside of the update here. Okay, and of course we're calling the handle update, handle input, which inside we say if just touched. So the moment you start touching, we call the bird.jump method, which is this one, and we are adding 200 units to the y-axis, which means it's going to go up. Okay, and in the update, inside of the app of our bird class, we created velocity vector and we added 0 to x because we don't want it to go anywhere left or right at this point at least. And we added gravity, which is minus 15 from our constants. Okay, so that gives it a negative downwards gravity, which is what we want. We scaled the velocity and put in the delta time that we get from the system, and then we added a position 0, okay, to the x-axis and velocity.y to the y value. Okay, and then we scale back our velocity to a fraction of our dt, delta time. That just will give us a smoother jump back and forth. See, if I went ahead and comment out velocity scale to the second velocity scale here to the bottom, you will see it's very limited. Okay, that's why we did that. Good. So next thing we're going to do, let's go back to our play state here. As you notice right now, if we run this app once again, the bird keeps falling the moment we stop touching the screen, right? So this is all good, but then we let go and he goes all the way and we don't know where he is. Okay, so we need to check for that to make sure that at least when he hits the bottom here, he stays there. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we know this is the y position. This is the y-axis down. Okay, so what we can say here, we can say if position.y, right? Because we know the position y is downwards, up and down, is less than 0. That means if less than 0, that means what? That means it's less, it's gonna be down here, because up to here, the x, y is gonna be 0. The y position is gonna be 0. So less, it's gonna be where we can't see. So if that's the case, then what we're gonna say, we're gonna put the position dot y to equal to 0. Right? So what are we doing here? We're saying, well, if that's the case again, we're just gonna make sure that the position of the bird will be here. We just stop here. Let's see if this works. Let's save and run. And there we go. And if we let go, there we go. It just stops there. Okay. And if you keep tapping, it goes up and can go all the way there. We want to make sure that our bird only has this gravity effect if it's within our screen here that we can see. This is the box where it has gravity in. So what we can do, we can put here, we can say if position y is greater than 0, right? So it's within greater than 0. That means all of this and up. Then we're going to give it gravity. So we're going to take this and put it there. Okay, this is just to make sure that we don't give the bird unnecessary properties when it's not inside of our frame. So nothing really will change except what we added previously, but at least we know that our code is running as efficient as possible. Okay, so it has gravity there. Okay, there we go. Perfect. That's real good. Okay, so we're able to get our bird to jump, and we added a bottom restriction so that if it hits the bottom, it doesn't just keep going, at least it stays at the bottom, which is wonderful. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.